The warning alarms screamed through the command deck of the flagship. Admiral Hyun stood before the massive viewing screen, watching another star system die. The Voidborn had reached it 3 hours ago. Now nothing remained but dust and darkness. "That's the 14th system this month," Nari said quietly beside him. She was the chief science officer, and her voice carried no emotion anymore. They had all run out of feelings to spare. "At this rate, we have 4 months before they reach the core worlds." Hyun nodded slowly. His silver uniform, decorated with medals from 50 years of service, felt heavy on his shoulders. Behind him, the command crew worked in silence. Everyone knew what those numbers meant. The coalition was dying. For 3 months, they had fought the Voidborn. For 3 months, they had lost. Every battle ended the same way. The enemy ships would appear from nowhere, tear through their defenses like paper, and vanish before reinforcements arrived. Millions died every week. Billions had already fled their homes. "The Council is waiting for your report," Taeyang said, approaching from the communication station. He was the political liaison, the bridge between the military and the government. His face looked older than it had 3 months ago. They all did. Hyun turned away from the screen. He couldn't watch another system die today. "Tell them I'll be there in 10 minutes. "They want answers, Admiral," Taeyang pressed. "The people are losing hope. The colonies are in chaos. Some worlds are already surrendering to the Voidborn, hoping for mercy." "There is no mercy," Nari said flatly. "The Voidborn don't take prisoners. They don't negotiate. They consume everything and move on. Surrendering just means dying on your knees instead of your feet." Hyun walked to his ready room, and the other two followed. Inside, away from the crew's eyes, he could finally drop the mask of confidence. He sank into his chair and looked at the 2 people he trusted most in this universe. "I have a proposal," he said. "The Council won't like it. Most people will call it treachery. Some will want me executed just for suggesting it." Nari and Taeyang exchanged glances. They had worked together for 15 years. They knew when Hyun was serious. "Tell us," Nari said. Hyun pulled up a hologram. A small blue planet appeared between them, spinning slowly. Earth. Even the name felt forbidden. "No," Taeyang said immediately, standing up. "Absolutely not. You can't be serious." "I'm completely serious," Hyun replied. "It's illegal," Taeyang said, his voice rising. "It's been illegal for 10,000 years. The quarantine law is one of our most sacred rules. No contact with Earth, ever. The penalty for breaking it is death, not just for you, but for your entire family line." "I know the law," Hyun said calmly. "I also know we're losing this war. We've lost 70% of our territory in 3 months. Our fleets are scattered. Our best tactics don't work. We're facing extinction, Taeyang. Extinction. At what point do laws matter less than survival?" Nari studied the hologram, her scientific mind already working. Earth was quarantined because humanity was too dangerous. They fought wars unlike anything the galaxy had seen. They were unpredictable, ruthless, and terrifyingly creative. The ancient records say they turned warfare into an art form. "An art form built on horror," Taeyang countered. "They committed atrocities. They killed billions of their own kind before they even reached space. When they joined the galaxy, they brought their violence with them. The quarantine wasn't a punishment. It was protection, for them and for us." "That was 10,000 years ago," Hyun said. "We've been monitoring them from a distance. Their technology hasn't advanced much. They never developed faster than light travel. They're still confined to their solar system. By our standards, they're primitive." "Then what use are they?" Taeyang demanded. "They're military tactics," Nari said, understanding dawning in her eyes. "You want their knowledge, not their technology." Hyun nodded. "I've been studying the old records. Before the quarantine, human military advisors were feared across the galaxy. They thought differently. Where we see honor and proper battle formation, they see opportunities and weaknesses. Where we follow traditional warfare, they break every rule to win. That's exactly why they were quarantined, Taeyang said. Maybe, Hyun agreed. But it's also why we need them now. The Voidborn don't fight like anything we've faced. They don't follow any rules we understand. We need someone who thinks outside our limitations. Taeyang paced the small room. Even if I agreed, which I don't, the Council would never approve this. Most species in the Coalition still fear humanity. There are entire religions built around avoiding them. Children are taught that humans are monsters from the old times. Then we don't tell the full Council, Hyun said. We call an emergency session. Just the inner circle. We present it as our only option. It might not even work, Nari added, playing devil's advocate. Earth might refuse. They might not have the capability anymore. They might have forgotten how to fight after 10,000 years of isolation. Or they might still hate us for imprisoning them, Taeyang said. We locked them away from the galaxy. We treated them like criminals. Why would they help us? Hyun stood and walked to the window. Outside, space stretched endlessly. Somewhere out there, the Voidborn were consuming another world. Somewhere else, Coalition citizens were dying, wondering why their mighty military couldn't save them. Because if the Voidborn destroy us, Hyun said quietly, Earth is next. They're isolated, yes, but they're not hidden. Once we're gone, there's nothing between them and the enemy. They'll face the same extinction we're facing now. The room fell silent. It was a grim calculation, but it was true. I need to think about this, Taeyang finally said. If I bring this to the Council, my career is over. Probably my life too. All our lives are over if we don't try something different, Hyun said. Nari pulled up data screens, her fingers moving quickly. I can prepare a presentation. Evidence of our losses, projections of our defeat timeline, analysis of why current tactics aren't working. If we're going to convince anyone, we need overwhelming proof that we have no other choice. How long do we have? Taeyang asked. 4 months until the Voidborn reach the core worlds, Nari said. Less if they speed up their advance. But we'd need to contact Earth soon. Travel time alone is 3 weeks each way. Negotiations could take weeks more. Training and integration of any assistance would take even longer. We're out of time, Hyun said. We've been out of time since this war started. We just didn't want to admit it. Taeyang moved to the door, then paused. If we do this, if we actually break the quarantine, everything changes. The Coalition as we know it ends. 10,000 years of peace and order shattered. And for what? To invite monsters back into our lives? To survive, Hyun said simply. Sometimes that's enough. After Taeyang left, Nari remained. She looked at Hyun with concern. You know they'll make you the delegation leader. You'll have to go to Earth yourself. Face the consequences personally. I know, Hyun said. You might not come back. I know that too. Your family. My family dies with everyone else if we don't try, Hyun interrupted gently. At least this way I'm doing something. At least I'm not just watching systems burn while following rules written by people who never faced extinction. 3 days later, the emergency council session convened. 12 hours of debate followed. Accusations flew. Ancient prejudices surfaced. Fear and desperation battled in every speech. In the end, the vote passed by a single voice. Authorization granted to contact Earth. To ask the monsters for help. To commit what many called the greatest treachery in galactic history. Hyun prepared his ship. Nari compiled every piece of data about the Voidborn. Taeyang drafted the diplomatic message, knowing it might be the last thing he ever wrote. As they departed for Earth, Hyun took one final look at Coalition space. He wondered if he would ever see it again. He wondered if there would be anything left to see. The journey to Earth had begun. The treachery was complete. and somewhere in the darkness the Voidborn continued their feast, unaware that the galaxy was about to break its most sacred law. For survival, anything could be forgiven. Or so Hyun hoped. The Coalition ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. Hyun had expected many things. He had expected old defense satellites, perhaps some primitive weapons platforms. He had expected a quiet, forgotten world that time had left behind. What he got instead were alarms. "Admiral, we're being targeted," the pilot reported, voice tight with stress. "Multiple weapon locks, 37 distinct sources. Power signatures are—" "That can't be right." "What is it?" Hyun demanded. "Sir, these weapons are more advanced than ours. Significantly more advanced." Nari rushed to the sensor station, her fingers dancing across the controls. Her face went pale. "He's right. These aren't primitive defenses. Some of these designs don't match anything in our database. How is this possible? They never achieved faster-than-light technology. The monitoring stations confirmed they were still confined to their solar system." "Confined doesn't mean helpless," Hyun muttered. A message appeared on the screen, written in perfect Coalition standard language. "Unidentified vessel. You have entered Earth territorial space. State your identity and purpose. You have 30 seconds to comply." Hyun activated the communication channel himself. "This is Admiral Hyun of the Galactic Coalition. We come in peace. We request an audience with Earth's leadership. This is a matter of extreme urgency." Silence. Long, uncomfortable silence. Then a new voice came through, calm and measured. "Admiral Hyun, the Coalition hasn't spoken to Earth in 10,000 years. Your arrival is either very brave or very desperate. Follow the designated course. Any deviation will be met with immediate destruction. Welcome to Earth space." The journey to Earth took 6 hours. 6 hours of flying through a solar system that looked nothing like the old records. Mars had settlements. The asteroid belt had been mined extensively. Stations orbited every major planet. This wasn't a primitive, isolated civilization. This was a civilization that had mastered their local space completely. "They knew," Nari whispered. "They had to know about the quarantine. They chose to stay in their system." "But why?" Hyun wondered aloud. "Why not break out? Why not demand their freedom?" They landed in Geneva, at what Earth called the United Government Headquarters. The building was simple but elegant, built into the side of a mountain. As Hyun, Nari, and Taeyang stepped off their ship, they found a welcoming committee waiting. At the center stood a man in a plain gray suit. He was middle-aged, with careful eyes and a slight smile. "I'm President Minho. Welcome to Earth, Admiral. It's been a long time since we've had visitors from the galaxy." Hyun bowed, as was proper in Coalition custom. "Thank you for receiving us, President Minho. I know our arrival must be unexpected." "Actually, we've been expecting someone to come eventually," Minho said, gesturing for them to follow. "Not this soon, perhaps. But when you trap a tiger in a cage, you can't be surprised when it watches you through the bars." They entered a conference room. 2 other humans waited there. A woman in a military uniform, her bearing suggesting decades of combat experience, and a man in formal diplomatic robes, older than the others, with kind eyes that held deep knowledge. "This is Defense Minister Sora," Minho introduced, "and our historian and diplomatic advisor, Dae-hyun. They'll be part of our discussions." Once everyone was seated, an uncomfortable silence filled the room. Finally, Taeyang spoke. "We should begin with an apology. The Coalition quarantined your people 10,000 years ago. We cut you off from the galaxy. Whatever you think of us, you have every right to those feelings." "Do we?" Dae-hyun said mildly. "Tell me, Liaison Taeyang, why did your ancestors imprison us?" "You were dangerous," Taeyang said carefully. "Humanity fought wars that shocked the galaxy. Your methods were considered too ruthless, too unpredictable." We were effective, Sora corrected, her voice sharp. That's what scared you. You had fought wars the same way for 1,000,000 years. Honor duels in space, formal declarations, rules of engagement. Then humans arrived and ignored all of it. We won battles we had no right to win. We turned your strategies against you, and instead of learning from us, you locked us away. Sora, Minho said gently, let them speak. They came a long way. Hyun took a deep breath. This was the moment. We're dying. Our civilization is facing extinction. An enemy called the Voidborn appeared 3 months ago. They're destroying everything. We've lost 70% of our territory. Millions die every week. Our military tactics, our strategies, everything we know about warfare, none of it works against them. He pulled up holographic images of the battles. The Voidborn ships tearing through coalition formations, planets going dark, star systems turning to dust. The humans watched in silence. Sora leaned forward, studying the tactical data with a professional eye. Daehyun's expression remained neutral. Minho just watched Hyun, reading him like a book. So you came to us, Minho said finally. After 10,000 years, not to apologize, not to free us, but to ask for help. Yes, Hyun said simply. There was no point in lying. That took courage, Minho admitted. Coming here was probably considered treachery by your people. It was, Taeyang confirmed. We could be executed for this. Our families could be punished. But we had no other choice. There's always a choice, Sora said coldly. You could have chosen to keep fighting alone. You could have chosen to accept extinction with your honor intact. Instead, you came to the people you imprisoned and asked them to save you. Sora is angry, Daehyun said, his tone gentle. Many of us are. We've spent 10,000 years alone. We watched the galaxy from afar, forbidden to join. We developed our technology, our culture, our civilization, all while knowing we were outcasts. Prisoners for crimes we committed before most of us were born. But you did know about the quarantine, Nari said. You knew you were being watched. Of course we knew, Minho said. Your monitoring stations weren't as hidden as you thought. We've known for 8,000 years. We chose not to break out because we decided isolation was better than begging to join people who feared us. You could have broken the quarantine? Hyun asked, shocked. Sora smiled grimly. Admiral, we've had faster-than-light technology for 6,000 years. We just never built the ships. Why would we? To fly to civilizations that would shoot us on sight. We had our solar system. We had each other. We learned to be content with what we had. The revelation stunned the coalition delegation into silence. Let me show you something, Daehyun said, pulling up historical records. This is what the galaxy said about us when they imposed the quarantine. Humanity is too dangerous to join civilized space. They wage war without honor. They cannot be trusted among peaceful species. Do you know what we learned from that? What? Hyun asked quietly. That the galaxy values honor more than survival, Daehyun said. That following ancient rules matters more than adapting to new threats. That being civilized means dying properly rather than living improperly. Minho stood and walked to the window, looking out over Earth's mountains. The Voidborn won't stop with the coalition. We know that. We've been analyzing the data you're broadcasting to your monitoring stations. Once they finish with you, they'll come here. We can't hide forever in our solar system. So you'll help? Hyun asked, hope rising in his chest. We'll listen, Minho corrected. We'll review your data. We'll consider our options. But understand this, Admiral. If we help, it's on our terms. We're not joining your coalition. We're not following your rules. We're not your subordinates or your saviors. We're potential allies, equal ones. The Council might not accept those terms, Taeyang warned. Then the Council can face extinction alone, Sora said bluntly. We don't need you. You need us. Remember that. Over the next week, meetings continued. Human military analysts studied the void-born tactics. Earth scientists examined coalition technology and found it wanting in several areas. Debates raged in both governments. Finally, Earth's council made their decision. Minho called Hyun to his office personally. "We've decided to help," Minho said. "Not because we forgive the quarantine, not because we like the coalition, but because the Voidborn are a threat to everyone. If we let them destroy you, we're next. Simple survival logic." "Thank you," Hyun said, relief flooding through him. "Don't thank me yet," Minho warned. "Our help comes with conditions. We send advisors, not armies. We teach tactics. We don't fight your war for you. And when this is over, when the Voidborn are defeated or driven off, the quarantine ends, permanently. Earth joins the galaxy as a full member, with all rights and protections." "I have no authority to promise that," Hyun said. "Then get authority," Minho said firmly. "Those are our terms. Take them or leave them." Hyun looked at this human leader, this president of a world his people had imprisoned for 10,000 years. He saw strength there, pride, and underneath it all, a willingness to forgive if given proper respect. "I'll take them to the council," Hyun said. "I'll fight for them." "See that you do," Minho said. Then his expression softened slightly. "You're a good man, Admiral. You came here knowing you might die. You're willing to break your own laws to save your people. That takes courage. Maybe the galaxy isn't as bound by tradition as we thought." As Hyun prepared to return to Coalition space, Sora approached him on the landing pad. "A word of advice, Admiral," she said. "When we arrive in your space, your people will hate us. They'll call us barbarians and worse. They'll resist our methods. They'll say we fight without honor." "I know," Hyun said. "Good. Because we do fight without honor. We fight to win. We fight to survive. And we're going to save your civilization whether you like our methods or not." She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Try to remember that when your colleagues complain." The journey back to Coalition space felt longer than the journey out. Hyun carried with him the knowledge that everything was about to change. The monsters were coming back to the galaxy. And maybe, just maybe, that was exactly what they needed. The Coalition Council had accepted Earth's terms, though not happily. 3 weeks after Hyun's return, the human fleet arrived at the frontline base. Every Coalition officer in the system came to watch. What they saw disappointed them greatly. "That's it?" Captain Junho asked, staring at the viewing screen in disbelief. 5 ships? They sent 5 ships? The human vessels were smaller than expected. They looked strange, too, built with angles that seemed wrong. They moved differently, not following any formation Junho recognized from his 40 years of military service. "Perhaps they're scout ships," someone suggested. "The main fleet follows behind." But no main fleet came. Just those 5 strange ships, carrying a total of 800 human soldiers and 300 support staff. Against an enemy that had destroyed thousands of Coalition vessels, Earth had sent barely 1,000 people. Defense Minister Sora arrived on the command station that afternoon. She wore a simple gray uniform, no medals or decorations. Behind her came Fleet Commander Yuna, a woman who looked barely old enough to command a shuttle, let alone a fleet. Junho met them in the briefing room, trying to hide his disappointment. "Welcome to Forward Base Talon. I'm Captain Junho. I've been assigned as your Coalition liaison and co-commander of joint operations." "Co-commander?" Yuna said, raising an eyebrow. "I was told I'd have full tactical command." "That's not standard procedure," Junho said carefully. "Coalition protocol requires—" "Coalition protocol has lost 70% of your territory in 3 months," Yuna interrupted. "I'm not here to follow the same playbook that's been losing. If you want our help, I command tactical operations. You can handle logistics and coordination with Coalition forces." Junho's jaw tightened. This young woman, barely tested in real combat from what he could tell, was demanding full command. "With respect, Commander, I have 4 decades of military experience. I've fought in 40 years of fighting wars that followed rules," Yuna said, not unkindly. "The Voidborn don't follow those rules, neither do we. That's why we're here." Sora stepped forward before the argument could escalate. "Captain Junho, I understand this is difficult. Your pride is wounded. Your traditions are being challenged. But we don't have time for egos. Show us the current battlefield situation." Junho pulled up the tactical maps. The front line had stabilized somewhat after the Council's desperate measures, but it was a fragile peace. The Voidborn could attack any of a dozen systems and break through easily. "We have 6 main defensive positions," Junho explained. "Each one is fortified according to Coalition military doctrine. Overlapping fields of fire, layered shields, standard combat formations. We can hold against most attacks for several hours before requesting reinforcements." Yuna studied the maps for less than a minute. "These positions are terrible." "Excuse me?" Junho said, his voice cold. "They're predictable," Yuna said, pointing to the screen. "You've placed your strongest defenses where traditional military theory says they should be, which means the Voidborn know exactly where to hit you. You're fighting by the book, and they're reading over your shoulder." "These positions have held back the enemy for 2 weeks, Junho protested. "Because they haven't really tried yet," Yuna said. "They're testing you, learning your patterns. When they actually want to break through, these defenses will fall in minutes." Over the next 3 days, Yuna completely reorganized the defensive positions. She moved ships to locations that made no strategic sense. She left obvious weaknesses in the formations. She violated every standard military principle Junho had learned in his career. "This is madness," Junho told Hyun privately. "She's going to get us all killed." "Trust the process," Hyun said, though he looked uncertain too. "Earth must know something we don't." The Voidborn attacked on the 4th day. They came in their usual pattern, appearing from nowhere and charging straight at the strongest defensive position. Junho watched from the command center, preparing to see Yuna's weak formations crumble. Instead, Yuna smiled. "All ships, execute pattern Alpha 7, she ordered calmly. What happened next violated everything Junho understood about warfare. The coalition ships at the main defensive position didn't fight. They ran. They scattered in complete disorder, fleeing like cowards. "What are you doing?" Junho shouted. "Stand and fight!" "Watch," Yuna said. The Voidborn, expecting resistance, found none. They pursued the fleeing ships deeper into coalition space, right into a trap. The ships Yuna had positioned in meaningless locations suddenly made perfect sense. They had surrounded the Voidborn completely. But they didn't attack head-on. Instead, they hit and ran, striking from unexpected angles. They used the Voidborn's own momentum against them. They fought dirty, using debris fields and asteroid cover that coalition forces had always considered dishonorable. Human ships danced through the battle like they were performing. No formation, no order, just chaos that somehow worked. They communicated in rapid bursts, adapting to every enemy move instantly. The Voidborn, for the first time since the war began, retreated. Silence filled the command center. Victory. Complete, total victory. Not a single coalition or human ship lost. Minimal damage. Maximum enemy casualties. "How?" Junho whispered. "We let them think they were winning," Yuna explained. "We showed weakness where we were strong. We made them overconfident. Then we punished that overconfidence. Basic psychology combined with unconventional tactics." "That's not how warfare works," Junho said, but his voice lacked conviction. "It's not how your warfare works," Yuna corrected, "but it's how war actually works. There's no honor in space battles, Captain. No judges keeping score. There's only survival." News of the victory spread through coalition forces like electricity. Suddenly, Those 5 small human ships didn't look so inadequate. Suddenly, Commander Yuna didn't look so young. But not everyone was pleased. After the 3rd victory using human tactics, Junho received complaints from his fellow officers. "They're making us fight like cowards," one captain said. "Running from battle, hiding behind cover, striking from ambush. This isn't warfare, it's assassination." "It's winning," Junho said, surprising himself. He was beginning to understand. More battles followed, each one different, each one breaking traditional rules in new ways. Yuna never used the same tactic twice. She kept the enemy guessing, kept them off balance. Where coalition forces would have formed proper battle lines, human advisors suggested chaos. Where tradition demanded honor, humans chose effectiveness. Not all coalition forces adapted well. Some captains refused to follow human tactics, insisting on traditional formations. Those ships suffered heavily. The Voidborn had learned to expect coalition behavior. They couldn't predict human behavior. A month into the joint operations, Nari approached Yuna after a particularly creative victory. "I've been analyzing your tactics," Nari said. "You're not just being unconventional. You're actively studying how the Voidborn think. You're getting inside their decision-making process." Yuna nodded. "Every enemy has patterns. The Voidborn are no different. They expect certain responses to certain situations. We give them different responses. It confuses them. Confusion creates mistakes. Mistakes create opportunities." "But how do you know what will confuse them?" Nari asked. "We study them," Yuna said simply. "Every battle, every engagement. We learn how they react. Then we do something they don't expect. It's not magic. It's just adaptation." "The coalition doesn't adapt quickly," Nari admitted. "Our military doctrine hasn't changed significantly in 1,000 years." "That's your problem," Yuna said. "You're fighting a modern war with ancient rules. The Voidborn are adapting to you faster than you're adapting to them. That's why you were losing." Junho joined them, looking tired but satisfied. They had reclaimed another system today. "Commander Yuna, I owe you an apology. When you first arrived, I thought you were arrogant. I thought Earth had sent children to fight an adult war." "And now?" Yuna asked. "Now I think we've been children all along," Junho said, "fighting our practice wars, following our safe rules. You're showing us what real war looks like. It's uglier than what we're used to, but it's effective." "War is ugly," Sora said, entering the conversation. She had been observing from the command center. "That's something the Coalition forgot. You made it ceremonial. You made it proper. You forgot that war's purpose is survival, not demonstration of honor." "But honor matters," Junho protested weakly. "Does it matter more than living?" Sora asked. "Because that's the choice. Your honor or your species. The Voidborn don't care about honor. They'll kill you just as dead whether you die with honor or without it." That night, Junho couldn't sleep. He kept replaying the battles in his mind. Every human tactic that had seemed cowardly at first now looked clever. Every dishonorable move now looked practical. His entire understanding of warfare was crumbling. The next morning, he called a meeting of Coalition officers. "I know many of you are uncomfortable with human methods. I was too. But I've been thinking about something," Commander Yuna said. She asked me what matters more, honor or survival. "Both matter," one officer said. "But if you can only have one," Junho pressed, "if the choice is between dying with honor or living without it, which do you choose?" The room fell silent. "The Voidborn have forced us to make that choice," Junho continued. "We can keep fighting the way we always have, following our traditions, maintaining our honor, and we'll lose. We'll die with our honor intact, and the galaxy will remember us as noble fools. Or we can learn from the humans. We can fight dirty. We can win ugly. And we'll survive. But at what cost? another officer asked. If we abandon our honor, what are we fighting to preserve? Our children, Junho said simply. Our future, our existence. Honor is beautiful, but it's meaningless in an empty galaxy. The dead have no honor. They have nothing at all. Not everyone was convinced. Some officers requested transfers rather than fight under human command. Some filed formal protests with the Coalition Council. There was talk of removing Yuna from command, of sending Earth's forces home. But the victories continued. System after system was reclaimed. The Voidborn advance stopped completely. For the first time since the war began, Coalition forces were winning. Yuna sat with Junho one evening, both of them exhausted after a particularly difficult battle. Your people hate us, Yuna said. It wasn't a question. Some do, Junho admitted. They say you're corrupting our military traditions, making us into something we're not. Are we? Yuna asked. Junho thought for a long moment. No. You're making us into something we need to be, something we should have been all along. We just didn't want to admit it. In the command center, Nari updated the tactical maps. Territory reclaimed was marked in blue. The line was moving back toward the Voidborn, slowly but steadily. Hyun watched the progress with mixed feelings. They were winning, but winning meant accepting that everything they believed about warfare was wrong. It meant accepting that the monsters they had imprisoned 10,000 years ago understood war better than they ever had. Is this what we wanted? He asked Nari quietly. To become more like humans? No, Nari said, but sometimes we don't get to choose what we become. We only get to choose whether we survive. The war was far from over, but for the first time, survival seemed possible. And if the price was honor, most Coalition soldiers were starting to think it was a price worth paying. After all, you can always rebuild honor. You can't rebuild from extinction. The war map told a story that should have made everyone celebrate. Half of the lost territory reclaimed in just 4 months. Enemy advances stopped completely. Coalition forces winning battle after battle. But in the council chambers, celebration was the last thing on anyone's mind. Senator Jiwon stood before the assembled leaders, his face twisted with anger. We are becoming monsters, he declared. Look at what we have done. Look at what they have made us do. On the screen behind him, footage from recent battles played. Coalition ships using ambush tactics, destroying enemy vessels that were attempting retreat, fighting without formal declarations or proper battle protocols. Every image showed victory, but victory gained through methods that made traditional Coalition officers uncomfortable. These tactics violate every principle of honorable warfare, Jiwon continued. We hide, we deceive, we strike when enemies are weak rather than giving them fair combat. This is not the Coalition way. This is not who we are. Taeyang, sitting in the defense section, felt his stomach turn. He had known this was coming. The victories had been too dramatic, the change too fast. There was always a backlash. Senator Jiwon, President Minho's voice came through the communication link. Earth's leader had been invited to observe the council session. You say these tactics are not your way, but they are working. Your people are alive because of them. Alive but corrupted, Jiwon shot back. You have infected our military with your barbarism. Before you came, we fought with honor. We followed rules that had kept the galaxy civilized for 1,000,000 years. Before we came, you were dying, Minho said calmly. Let's not rewrite history, Senator. You asked for our help because your honorable methods were failing. We asked for help, not for corruption, Jiwon said. He pulled up new images. These are Coalition soldiers now, learning human tactics, training in deception and surprise attacks. We are teaching our children to fight like you, to think like you. When this war ends, we will not recognize ourselves. Hyun stood to speak. Senator, I understand your concerns, but the Voidborn do not care about our honor. The Voidborn are not the issue here, Jiwon interrupted. You are. You, Admiral, who broke our most sacred law. You brought these humans back. You unleashed them on our civilization. The quarantine existed for good reasons. Now, we remember why. The quarantine existed because you feared us, Minho said, his voice harder now. Not because we were evil, because we were effective, because we won when we should have lost. You couldn't understand it, so you locked us away. Taiyang stood, trying to calm the situation. Perhaps we should focus on the present crisis. The Voidborn are still out there. We have reclaimed territory, yes, but we have not won the war. This debate about methods can wait until— No, Jiwan said firmly. This debate cannot wait. Every day we delay, more coalition soldiers learn human tactics. More of our culture is lost. More of our honor is sacrificed. At what point do we stop and ask if survival is worth becoming something we hate? The question hung in the air. Nobody had a good answer. In the medical bay of the flagship, another perspective on the war was forming. Arayam moved between beds, treating wounded coalition soldiers. She was a human combat medic, embedded with the frontline forces. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency, sealing wounds and administering medicine. "Will I live?" a young coalition soldier asked her, his voice weak. He had been caught in the edge of a void-born energy blast. "Yes," Ariam said gently. "You'll be fine. Just rest." "Thank you," the soldier said. "You're not what I expected. They told us humans were monsters." Ariam smiled sadly. "We're just people, like you. We bleed, we hurt, we want to go home." Another medic, a coalition doctor named Suman, worked beside her. "You're good at this," Suman observed. "Your medical techniques are different from ours, but effective." "We've had a lot of practice," Ariam said. "Humans have fought many wars. We learned to save lives as well as take them." "Does that make you feel better?" Suman asked. "Being good at saving the ones who survive your methods of killing?" Ariam paused, her hands still for a moment. "No, it doesn't, but it's better than being good at neither." Back in the council chambers, the debate continued. Evidence was presented, statistics about casualties, both enemy and friendly, success rates, territory reclaimed, but also evidence of changing coalition culture. Military academies teaching human tactics, children playing war games using human strategies. The gradual shift away from traditional honor toward practical effectiveness. "I propose we end the alliance with Earth immediately," Jiwan said. "We thank them for their help but send them home. We return to our own methods before the corruption becomes permanent." "That would be suicide," Nari said, standing to speak for the first time. "The Voidborn have adapted to our new tactics, but they haven't overcome them. If we go back to old methods, we'll start losing again immediately." "Then we fight and die as ourselves," Jiwan said. "Better to die with honor than live as something we're not." "Tell that to the billions who have already died," Hyun said quietly. "Tell that to the families waiting for soldiers who will never come home. Ask them if honor matters more than seeing their loved ones again." Taiyang's assistant brought him an urgent message. His face went pale as he read it. "The vote is scheduled for tomorrow. Senator Jiwan has the support he needs. The alliance will be ended." That night, Minho requested a private meeting with the council leadership. They gathered in a secure chamber, just 6 people who would decide the fate of 2 civilizations. "I know what you're planning to vote," Minho said, "to end our alliance, to send us home." "We have no choice," Jiwan said. "Your presence is destroying our culture." "Your culture was already dying," Minho said bluntly. "You were being destroyed. We didn't come here to change you. We came because you asked for help, because the alternative was watching you disappear completely." "But at what cost?" Jiwan demanded. "Look at what we've become." Minho stood and walked to the window. "Let me tell you a story about Earth. 10,000 years ago, when you quarantined us, we were angry. We felt abandoned, imprisoned for being good at survival. Do you know what we did? Nobody answered. We looked at ourselves, Minho continued. We asked if maybe you were right. Maybe we were too violent, too ruthless. So we tried to change. We tried to become softer, more civilized. We followed your rules even though you weren't there to enforce them. He turned back to face them. It nearly destroyed us. We had enemies on Earth who didn't care about civilization or rules. They saw our softness as weakness. We almost lost everything because we were trying to be something we weren't. Do you know what saved us? What? Hyun asked. We remembered who we were, Minho said. We accepted that survival sometimes requires hard choices. That doesn't make us monsters. It makes us survivors. You can be civilized and effective. You can have honor and win, but you can't have honor that values form over function. That's not honor. That's suicide with good publicity. Beautiful words, Jiwon said, but they don't change what you've done to us. An alarm suddenly blared through the station. Emergency lights flashed. A communication officer burst into the room. Void-born attack. Multiple systems simultaneously. The largest assault since the war began. Everyone rushed to the command center. The displays showed a nightmare. The Void-born had launched a coordinated attack on 12 different systems at once. They had been gathering forces, waiting, planning. Now they struck with everything they had. They're targeting civilian evacuation routes, Nari reported, her voice shaking. They're going after refugees. Millions of civilians in immediate danger. Yuna and Sora were already coordinating responses, but it was clear they didn't have enough forces. The human advisors had been effective, but there were only a few hundred of them. They couldn't be everywhere at once. We need every ship, Yuna said. Every captain who knows human tactics. If we pull back to defend the core worlds, we can save the majority of civilians. That means abandoning the frontier systems, Junho said. Millions more will die. Millions will die anyway if we spread our forces too thin, Yuna countered. We save who we can save. Taeyang watched the tactical display, his mind racing. This was the moment. The Void-born had timed this attack perfectly. Right when the coalition was debating ending the alliance with Earth. Right when doubt was strongest. They're testing us, he said suddenly. The Void-born. They're testing whether we'll stick together or fall apart under pressure. Does it matter? Jiwon asked bitterly. We're about to vote to end the alliance anyway. Maybe this attack is our punishment for making deals with devils. An explosion rocked the station. One of the targeted systems had fallen, billions dead in minutes. Ariam worked frantically in the medical bay as wounded poured in. Suman worked beside her, and together they saved life after life. No time to think about honor or cultural corruption, just the immediate need to keep people alive. Your people are dying, Suman said to Ariam between patients. Out there, human advisors on the front lines. This attack is targeting them too. I know, Ariam said, her voice tight, but we knew the risk when we came. A coalition soldier grabbed Ariam's hand as she treated him. Don't leave us, he begged. Please, I don't care about honor. I don't care about tradition. I just want my family to survive. Please don't let them send you away. Ariam looked at Suman, and the coalition doctor looked away, unable to meet her eyes. In the command center, Minho made a decision. We're committing everything, he told Sora. All our forces, all our ships, everything Earth has sent to coalition space. We defend everything we can. That's not strategic, Sora warned. If we lose those forces, Earth is vulnerable. If we hold back now, the coalition falls, Minho said. And then Earth falls anyway. We're all in this together, whether the Council votes for it or not. The battle raged for 18 hours. Human tactics combined with coalition determination. Ships fought with everything they had. Soldiers died following orders they barely understood. But slowly, impossibly, the tide turned. The Void-born were pushed back, not defeated but stopped. Systems were saved. Civilians were evacuated. The cost was enormous, but it could have been so much worse. In the aftermath, the council gathered again for the vote. But something had changed. Senator Jiwan stood before them, looking older than he had that morning. "I watched humans die today," he said quietly. "Fighting to save our people. Using their methods, yes, but dying for our civilization. Ariam, the human medic, worked for 20 hours straight saving coalition soldiers. She collapsed from exhaustion. When she woke up, the first thing she asked was whether everyone survived." He paused, struggling with his words. "I don't know if what we're becoming is better than what we were, but I know we're alive to worry about it. I know our children will grow up to debate honor and tactics. They wouldn't have that chance without Earth." The vote was called, to end the alliance with Earth or continue it. The result was not unanimous. Many still voted to end it, but the majority, slim as it was, voted to continue. Taiyang found Hyun after the vote. "We won. Barely." "Did we?" Hyun asked, looking at casualty reports. Taiyang had been among the casualties. He had died helping coordinate evacuation efforts in one of the attacked systems. They were looking at his final report now, submitted minutes before the end. "He believed it was worth it," Nari said softly, reading over their shoulders. "The alliance, the cost, all of it." Minho stood in his ship, preparing to return to Earth. Hyun came to see him off. "Your people still hate us," Minho said. "Some do," Hyun agreed. "Some always will, but some are starting to understand it's more than I hoped for." "Is it enough?" Minho asked. Hyun didn't answer. He didn't know. The war continued, the debate continued. The cost kept rising, but they were still alive, still fighting, still hoping, and sometimes that had to be enough. The combined fleet gathered at the edge of void-born space, hundreds of coalition ships alongside Earth's vessels. It was the largest military force assembled in galactic history, and it was preparing to do something that terrified everyone involved: attack the void-born at their source. Hyun stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching the fleet organize. 6 months ago, he had made the desperate decision to contact Earth. Now he was about to lead a joint force into the heart of enemy territory. The irony wasn't lost on him. "Final count?" he asked. 300 coalition warships, 20 Earth vessels, support craft numbering in the thousands, Nari reported. She looked exhausted. They all did. 6 months of constant warfare had aged everyone. Yuna entered the bridge with Junho beside her. The coalition captain had become her closest ally, the bridge between human tactics and coalition forces. They had learned to trust each other through battle. "Intelligence reports the Voidborn Central System is heavily defended," Yuna said, pulling up tactical displays. "But there's something else. Something we didn't expect." The screen showed strange energy readings, patterns that suggested movement. "The Voidborn are evacuating," Nari said, studying the data. "They're pulling back their forces, gathering everything in one location." "For a final stand," Junho suggested. "They know we're coming." "Maybe," Yuna said slowly. "Or maybe they're running from something." Hyun frowned. What could make the Voidborn run? "They've been the unstoppable force in this war." Sora entered the bridge, Minho following behind her. The Earth president had insisted on coming personally for the final assault. "We've decoded some of their communications. It's fragmentary, but the translation team found something interesting. The Voidborn aren't invading, they're fleeing." The bridge fell silent. "Fleeing from what?" Hyun asked. Minho pulled up new data. "We don't know yet. But the Voidborn entered Coalition space because something pushed them out of their original territory. Something that scared them enough to keep moving, to keep consuming resources, to never stop." "So we're not the target," Nari said, understanding dawning. "We're just in the way." "That doesn't change what they've done," Junho said firmly. They've killed billions of Coalition citizens. Destroyed entire worlds. Whether they meant to or not, they're still our enemy. Are they? Yuna asked. Or are they refugees who chose the wrong path? The question hung heavy. This changed everything. Or did it? The dead were still dead. The destroyed worlds were still gone. We still have to stop them, Hyun said. But maybe we don't have to destroy them. Minho nodded. Earth proposes an alternative. We've been analyzing empty systems beyond Coalition space. Uninhabited regions the Voidborn could settle. If we can communicate with them, offer them sanctuary, maybe we can end this without more death. The Council will never agree, Junho said immediately. After everything they've done, offering them mercy, it would be political suicide. Then we don't ask the Council, Hyun said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. We're the ones here. We're the ones who will fight this battle. We make the decision. That's mutiny, Nari warned. No, Hyun said. That's command initiative. We adapt to the situation as we find it. If we can save lives, both theirs and ours, we have to try. Yuna smiled slightly. Now you're thinking like a human. The fleet moved forward. As they approached the Voidborn central system, more data came in. The truth became clearer and more horrifying. Behind the Voidborn, in the space they had fled from, something else was moving. Energy readings that made no sense. Matter behaving in ways that violated known physics. It's extra-dimensional, Nari said, her voice shaking. Something from outside normal space. It's consuming everything it touches, not just destroying it, making it stop existing. The Voidborn were running from complete annihilation. Can we fight it? Junho asked. We don't even know what it is, Nari said. The Voidborn couldn't fight it. What chance do we have? Minho's expression was grim. Earth has fought something like this before. Millions of years ago, before we joined the galaxy. It's why our ancestors became so good at warfare. Why we developed tactics that seemed ruthless to you. We learned to fight things that couldn't be reasoned with, things that couldn't be understood, just survived against. You knew about this? Hyun asked. We suspected, Minho admitted. The Voidborn attack patterns were familiar, desperate, not the movements of conquerors, the movements of prey being hunted. The fleet arrived at the Voidborn system. Thousands of enemy ships waited, but they didn't attack. They just watched, waiting. Open a communication channel, Hyun ordered. All frequencies. The screen flickered. For the first time, a Voidborn appeared. It wasn't what anyone expected. Not a monster. Just a being, alien and strange, but clearly intelligent. Clearly afraid. We know why you ran, Hyun said through the translator. We know what's chasing you. We're not here to destroy you. We're here to help. The Voidborn leader stared at him. Why? We have killed your people, destroyed your worlds. Why would you help us? Because that thing behind you will kill us all if we don't stop it together, Minho said. And because maybe we can break the cycle. You ran, so you destroyed us. If we destroy you, someone else will have to destroy us when we run from that thing. When does it end? Another silence. Then, we cannot fight it. We tried. For generations we tried. It cannot be killed. It cannot be stopped. Only fled from. Maybe you're right, Yuna said. Maybe it can't be killed. But maybe it can be contained, sealed, given something else to consume while we escape. You have a plan? The Voidborn asked. We have something better, Yuna said. We have humans who are very good at impossible problems, and coalition forces who are very good at following through, and you, who understand this enemy better than anyone. Together, maybe we have a chance. The alliance formed quickly. Desperation made strange friends. Voidborn ships joined the coalition fleet. Human tactics were shared with former enemies. Everyone knew they were probably going to die, but at least they wouldn't die running. The extra-dimensional predator arrived 3 days later. It was worse than anyone imagined. Not a creature, not a force, just wrongness given form. Where it moved, space itself died. Stars winked out. Planets ceased to exist, not destroyed, simply unmade. "That's what we're fighting," Junho whispered, staring at the screens. "That's what we're surviving," Yuna corrected. "We don't have to defeat it. Just contain it long enough to seal the dimensional rift it's using to enter normal space." The plan was insane. It required the void-born biological weapons, coalition discipline, and human tactical creativity all working together perfectly. The margin for error was 0. "All ships," Hyun commanded, "begin the operation. For all our people, for all our worlds, for survival itself." The battle began. It wasn't really a battle, more like a desperate attempt to not be erased from existence. Ships darted in and out, drawing the predator's attention. Void-born biological weapons tried to create barriers it couldn't cross. Coalition ships worked to seal the dimensional rift, and humans coordinated it all, adapting on the fly as everything went wrong. Because everything always went wrong in war. Junho's ship was caught in the edge of the predator's effect. Half his crew simply stopped existing. He pulled back, shaking, trying to maintain formation. Yuna's ship took critical damage, protecting void-born vessels that were placing the final seals. "Keep going!" she shouted over the communication channel. "We're almost there!" Sora commanded the Earth ships, using tactics that made no sense but somehow worked. Buying seconds. Those seconds bought minutes. Those minutes bought the time needed to complete the seal. Nari worked frantically on the calculations. "The rift is closing. Keep the pressure on." The predator sensed what was happening. It surged forward, trying to consume everything before the rift closed. Ships were lost. Thousands died in seconds, but the seal held. With a reality-warping scream, the predator was pushed back through the rift. The dimensional tear sealed shut. Silence fell across the combined fleet. "Did we do it?" someone asked. "The seal is holding," Nari reported, disbelief in her voice. "It worked. It actually worked." Celebration erupted across the fleet. Humans hugging coalition officers, void-born ships signaling joy in their alien way. They had done the impossible, not through strength, not through honor, through cooperation, but the cost had been terrible. 1/3 of the fleet destroyed, millions dead. Among them, many friends. Hyun read the casualty reports, each name a weight on his soul. Taiyang had died months ago, but his sacrifice had held the alliance together. Now others had joined him. Young soldiers who would never go home. Captains who had learned to trust former enemies only to die beside them. "They saved us all," Minho said, standing beside Hyun. "Every one of them." "Was it worth it?" Hyun asked quietly. "Ask me in 100 years," Minho said. "After their children and grandchildren live lives they wouldn't have had. After worlds are rebuilt. After species that should have gone extinct are still here. Ask me then if it was worth it." The aftermath was complicated. The Voidborn were relocated to empty space, far from coalition worlds. A treaty was signed. Humans were officially released from their quarantine. Earth became a full member of the galactic community. But debates continued. Arguments about methods, about honor, about what the galaxy had become. Some praised the alliance, others condemned it. The truth, as always, was complicated. Nari became the first coalition officer to train at Earth's War College. She learned human tactics not to replace coalition methods, but to supplement them, to give her people options they had never had. Sora retired, finally able to go home. She had spent 5 years away from Earth, fighting battles for people who sometimes hated her. She was tired, but she had saved countless lives. That had to count for something. Junho received a medal for his service. He stood at the ceremony thinking about how much he had changed. 6 months ago, he would have refused to work with humans. Now he considered them friends. Honor isn't about following old rules, he said in his acceptance speech. It's about doing what's right even when it's hard. Hyun was tried for breaking the quarantine. The trial was a formality. Everyone knew he would be pardoned. But during the trial, something unexpected happened. He collapsed. Age and stress had finally caught up with him. He died 3 days later, surrounded by friends, coalition and human. Even a void-born representative came to pay respects. The admiral who had committed treachery had saved the galaxy. History would remember him better than his contemporaries had treated him. Minho attended the funeral. He stood before the assembled mourners and spoke simply. This man broke your most sacred law. He committed what you called treachery. He invited monsters back into your civilization, and because of that, you're all alive. Sometimes treachery and heroism are the same thing. Sometimes breaking the rules is the most honorable thing you can do. Admiral Hyun understood that. I hope the galaxy eventually will too. Years passed. The alliance between Earth, the Coalition, and the reformed Voidborn grew stronger. A new organization formed, the Survival Pact. Its charter was simple: species helping species. No more quarantines. No more ancient prejudices. Just cooperation against the universe's many dangers. The extra-dimensional predator remained sealed, but everyone knew it was temporary. One day, it would break through again. But now, the galaxy was ready. It had learned to fight together, to adapt together, to survive together. Nari, now an admiral herself, stood before a class of young officers. Coalition, human, and voidborn students sat together, learning from each other. You're all wondering which method is correct, she said. Coalition honor or human effectiveness, traditional warfare or adaptive tactics. The answer is both, and neither. War isn't about following rules or breaking them. It's about understanding when each is appropriate. It's about surviving while keeping what makes you worth saving. A young coalition officer raised his hand. What about honor, Admiral? Does it matter? Nari smiled. Honor matters tremendously. But honor that values tradition over survival isn't honor. It's pride. Real honor is doing what's necessary to protect your people, even when it costs you personally. Even when others call you a traitor. Ask Admiral Hyun about that. Oh, wait, you can't. He died saving you all. She pulled up an image. The memorial to all who had fallen in the war. Billions of names. Coalition, human, voidborn. All mixed together. All equally remembered. This is what honor looks like, Nari said. Not perfect formations or proper protocols, but people from different worlds with different beliefs, standing together against the darkness, learning from each other, dying for each other. That's the honor we should aspire to. The students sat in silence, understanding. Far away on Earth, a monument was built, simple words carved in stone. To Admiral Hyun, who committed treachery to save the galaxy, may we all be so brave. Beside it, another memorial. To all who died fighting together, coalition, human, voidborn, brothers and sisters in arms. May we remember that survival requires sacrifice, honor requires courage, and peace requires former enemies becoming friends. The galaxy had changed. Not easily, not without pain, but it had changed. The monsters had returned from their cage, and they had saved everyone. Because sometimes the monsters are just people who fight differently, and sometimes that's exactly what you need. The war was over. The alliance had held. The galaxy would survive to face new challenges, and in that survival, in that cooperation, in that willingness to change and adapt and accept help from unexpected sources, perhaps they had found something more valuable than victory. They had found hope, and hope, as it turned out, was worth any price. Even treachery, even honor, even everything they thought they were. Because what you are doesn't matter as much as what you become. And they had become something better than they were before. They had become survivors, together.